So, page 19.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Read and Discuss session. Uh, Today, we are reading the book The Untethered Soul The Journey Beyond Yourself. We are on chapter 2 Your Inner Roommate. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. You are ready to grow when you finally realize that I, who is always talking inside, will never be content. It always has a problem with something. Honestly, when was the last time you really had nothing bothering you? Before you had your current problem, there was a different problem. And if you are wise, you will realize that after this one gone, there will be another one. The bottom line is you will never be free of problems until you free from the part within that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask what should I do about it. Ask what part of me is being disturbed by this. If you ask what should I do about it, you have already fallen into believing that there is really a problem outside that must be dealt with. If you want to achieve peace in the face of your problems, you must understand why you perceive a particular situation as a problem. If you are feeling jealousy, instead of trying to see how you can protect yourself, just ask what part of me is jealous. That will cause you to look inside and see that is the part of you that's having problem with jealousy. Once you clearly see the disturbed part, then ask who is that sees it, this, who notices this inner disturbance. Asking this is the solution to your every problem. The very fact that you can see the disturbances means that you are not it. The process of seeing something requires a subject object relationship. The subject is called the witness because it is the one who sees what's happening. The object is what you are seeing. In this case, the inner disturbance. The act of maintaining objective awareness of the inner problem is always better than losing yourself in the outer situation. This is the essential difference between a spiritually minded person and a worldly person. Worldly doesn't mean that you have money or stature. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problem is the outside world. You think that if you change things outside, you'll be okay. But nobody has ever truly become okay by changing things outside. There's always the next problem. The only solution, real solution, is to take the seat of witness consciousness and completely change your frame of reference. I'll stop here. Do you want to know next, Wendy?
To attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with a situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. Once you do that, you'll be clear enough to deal with what's left. There really is a way to let go of the part of you that sees everything as a problem. It may seem impossible, but it's not. There is a part of your being that can actually abstract from your own melodrama. You can watch yourself be jealous or angry. You don't have to think about it or analyze it. You can just be aware of it. Who is it that sees all this? Who notices the changes going on inside? When you tell a friend, every time I talk to Tom, it gets me so upset. How do you know it gets you upset? You know that it gets you upset because you're in there and you see what's going on in there. There's a separation between you and the anger or the jealousy. You are the one who's in there noticing these things. Once you take that seat of consciousness, you can get rid of these personal disturbances. You start by watching. Just be aware that you are aware of what is going on in there. It's easy. What you'll notice is that you're watching a human being's personality with all its strengths and weaknesses. It's as though there's somebody in there with you. You might actually say you have a roommate. If you would like to meet your roommate, just try to sit inside yourself for a while in complete solitude and silence. You have the right. It's your inner domain. But instead of finding silence, you're going to listen to incessant chatter. Why am I doing this? I have more important things to do. This is a waste of time. There's nobody in here but me. What's this all about? Right on cue, there's your roommate. You may have a clear intention to be quiet inside, but your roommate won't cooperate. And it's not just when you try to be quiet. It has something to say about everything you look at. I like it. I don't like it. This is good. That's bad. It just talks and talks. You don't generally notice because you don't step back from it. You're so close that you don't realize that you're actually hypnotized into listening to it. Basically, you're not alone in there. There are two distinct aspects of your inner being. The first is you, the awareness, the witness, the center of your willful intentions, and the other is that which you watch. The problem is the part that you watch never shuts up. If you could get rid of that part, even for a moment, the peace and serenity would be the nicest vacation you've ever had. Imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to bring this thing with you everywhere you go. Real spiritual growth is about getting out of this predicament. But first, you have to realize that you've been locked in there with a maniac. In any situation or circumstance, your roommate could suddenly decide, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to this person. You would immediately feel tense and uncomfortable. Your roommate can ruin anything you're doing without a moment's notice. It could ruin your wedding day or even your wedding night. That part of you can ruin anything and everything, and it generally does. You buy a brand new car and it's beautiful, but every time you drive it, your inner roommate finds something wrong with it. The mental voice keeps pointing out every little squeak, every little vibration, until eventually you don't even like the car anymore. Once you see what this can do to your life, you are ready for spiritual growth. You're ready for real transformation when you finally say, look at this thing, it's ruining my life. I'm trying to live a peaceful, meaningful existence, but I feel like I'm sitting on top of a volcano. At any moment, this thing can decide to freak, close down, and fight with what's happening. One day it likes someone, and the next day it decides to pick on everything they do. My life is a mess just because this thing that lives in here with me has to make a melodrama out of everything. Once you've seen this and learned to no longer identify with your roommate, you're ready to free yourself. All right, I'll stop here.
Okay. We're on page 21. If you have not reached this awareness yet, just start to watch. Spend a day watching every single thing your roommate does. Start in the morning and see if you can notice what it's saying in every situation. Every time you meet somebody, every time the phone rings, just try to watch. A good time to watch is talk is while you're taking a shower. Just watch what the voice has to say. You will see that it never lets you just take a peaceful shower. Your shower is for washing the body, not for watching the mind talk nonstop. See if you can stay conscious enough throughout the entire experience to be aware of what's going on. You will be shocked by what you see. It just jumps from one subject to the next. The incessant chatter seems so neurotic that you won't believe that it's always that way. But it is. You have to watch this if you want to be free of it. You don't have to do anything about it, but you have to get wise to the predicament you're in. You have to realize that somehow you've ended up with a mess for an inner roommate. If you want to be peaceful in there, you're going to have to fix the situation. The way to catch on to what your inner roommate is really like is to personify it externally. Make believe that your roommate, the psyche, has a body of its own. You just do this by taking the entire personality that you hear talking to you inside, imagine it as a person talking to you on the outside. Just imagine that another person is now saying everything that your inner voice will say. Now spend a day with that person. You've just sat down to watch your favorite TV show. The problem is you have this person with you. Now you get to hear the same incessant monologue that used to be inside, except it's sitting next to you on the couch talking to yourself. Did you turn off the light downstairs? You better go back and check. Not now, I'll do it later. I want to finish watching the show. No, do it now. That's why the electric bill is so high. You sit in silent awe, watching all of this. Then a few seconds later, your couchmate is engaged in another dispute. Hey, I want to get something to eat. I'm craving some pizza. No, you cannot have pizza now. It's too far to drive. But I'm hungry. When will I get to eat? To your amazement, these neurotic bursts of conflicting dialogue just keep going on and on. And see if that's not enough. Instead of simply watching TV, this this person starts verbally reacting to whatever comes on the screen. At one point, after a red hair appears on the show, your couchmate starts mumbling about an ex-spouse and a painful divorce. Then the yelling starts, just as though the ex-spouse were in the room with you. Then it stops, just as suddenly as it started. At this point, you'll find yourself hugging the far corner of the couch in a desperate attempt to get as far away from this disturbed person as you possibly can. Will you dare to do this experiment? Don't try to make the person stop talking. Just try to get to know what you live with inside by externalizing the voice. Give it a body and put it out there in the world just like everybody else. Let it be a person who says on the outside exactly what the voice of your mind says inside. Now make that person your best friend. After all, how many friends do you spend all of your time with and pay absolute attention to every word they say? How would you feel if someone outside really started talking to you the way your inner voice does? How would you relate to a person who opened their mouth to say everything your mental voice says? After a very short period of time, you would tell them to leave and never come back. But when your inner friend continuously speak up, you don't ever tell it to leave. No matter how much trouble it causes, you listen. That's almost nothing that voice can say that you don't pay full attention. It pulls you right out of whatever you're doing, no matter how enjoyable, and suddenly you're paying whatever it has to say. Imagine that you're in a serious relationship and about to get married. You're driving to the wedding, it says, maybe this is not the right person. I'm getting nervous about it. What should I do? If someone outside of you said that, you'd ignore them, but you feel you owe the voice an answer. You have to convince your nervous mind that this is the right person, or it won't let you walk down the aisle. That's how much respect you have for this neurotic thing inside of you. You know that if you don't listen to it, it will bother you every day of your life. I told you not to get married. I said I wasn't sure. The bottom line is undeniable. If somehow that voice managed to manifest in a body outside of you, and you had to take it with you everywhere you went, you won't last a day. If somebody were to ask you what your new friend is like, you'd say, this this is one seriously disturbed person. Just look at the neuroses. Look up neurosis in the dictionary and you'll get the picture. How much more do we have?
That
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
No.
Okay.
It's only about another page or so.
Do you want to finish it, Wendy?
All right, let me see.
Or I could do it. Up to you.
All right.
I can.
Oh, got two. Okay. I'm gonna stop one of you guys.
All right.
Okay. So that being the case, once you have spent a day with your friend, what is the probability that you go to them for advice? After seeing how often this person changed their mind, how conflicted they were on so many subjects, and how emotionally overreactive they tend to be, would you ever ask them for relationship or financial advice? As amazing as it seems, you do just that every moment of your life. Having taken its rightful place back inside of you, it's still the same person who tells you what to do about every aspect of your life. Have you ever bothered to check its credentials? How many times have that voice been totally wrong? He doesn't care for you anymore. That's why she hasn't called. She's going to break up with you tonight. I'm feeling if it's coming. I just know it. You shouldn't even answer the phone if she calls. After 30 minutes of this, the phone rings. It's your girlfriend. She is late because it's one your anniversary and she was preparing for a surprise dinner. It was definitely a surprise to you since you completely forgot the anniversary. He says she's on her way over to pick you up. Well, you are very excited and your inner voice is chatting about how great she is. But haven't you forgotten something? Haven't you forgotten about the bad advice the inner voice gave you that caused you to suffer for the last half hour? What if you have hired a relationship advisor who would have given you that terrible advice? They had completely misread the entire situation. Have you listened to to the advisor? You never would have picked up the phone. Wouldn't you fire them on the spot? How do you ever trust that advice again after seeing how wrong they were? Well, are you going to fire your inner roommate? After all, its advice and analysis of the situation were totally wrong. No, you never hold it responsible for the trouble it causes. In fact, the next time it gives you advice, you are all ears. Is that rational? How many times that had been voice been wrong about what was going on and what will be going on? Maybe it's worth noticing whom you are going to for advice. When you sincerely tried these practices of self-observation and awareness, you see that you are in trouble. You realize that you only have one problem and your entire life, and you're looking at it. It's pretty much the cause of every problem you ever had. Now the question comes: how do you get rid of this inner troublemaker? The first thing you realize is that there is no hope of getting rid of it until you really want to. Until you have watched your humans long enough to truly understand the predicament you are in. You really have no biases for practices that help you to deal with the mind. Once you have made the decision to free yourself from the mental melodrama, you are ready for teaching and techniques. You will now have a real use of them. You will be relieved to know that you are not the first person to have this problem. There are those who have gone before you who found themselves in the same situation. Many of them looked for guidance from those who had mastered this field of knowledge. They have they are given teachings and techniques such as yoga, which were created to help in this process. Yoga is not really about getting your body healthy, although it does that too. Yoga is about knowledge that will help you out of your predicament. The knowledge that you can free, knowledge that can free you. Once you have made this freedom the meaning of your life, there is spiritual practices that can help you. These practices are what you do with your time in order to free yourself from yourself. You will eventually catch one on that you have to distance yourself from your psyche. You do this by setting the direction of your life when you are clear and not letting the wavering mind deter you. You will your will is stronger than the habit of listening to that voice. There's nothing you can't do. Your will is supreme over all this. If you want to free yourself, you must first become conscious enough to understand your predicament. Then you must commit yourself to the inner work of freedom. You do this as though your life depended on it, because it does. As it is right now, your life is not your own. It belongs to your inner roommate, the psyche. You have to take it back. Stand firm in the seat of witness, and release the hold that the habitual mind has on you. This is your life. Reclaim it. It's the end of chapter 2. Yeah, so yeah, that this talk is more about the inner roommate. Definitely, everybody has seen this, been through this, and I can relate bunch of like everyday example how uh, that the roommate or the inner psyche talks about it. I think one of the books that we read long back. it has the it was talking about almost the same thing. You have to distance yourself. You have to look what you are or observe what you are doing. I think this resonates with me on that front. Yeah. So I think I started watching, but my inner self. But then it's not always that habit of looking at it. But I know, like, okay, when I'm angry, uh, that time where I can really say, okay, am I getting angry, and then I calm down. But I noticed that all these feelings, if you realize it it's sooner that you can control it versus other person who will realize it but who will not say that you are angry. And if that other person says that you are angry or something, you'll become even more angry. So yeah, that's what I have noticed in myself. If most of the time, if I realize it, I'll get a control of it. So I think it's all these feelings, it's better to realize first. Maybe, I mean, mostly negative ones better. Positive is also good, but positive you generally don't mind. If you are happy, you are happy. So kind of. So that's my 2 cents. You want to go next, Wendy?
Me, I get into the first part of what we read is pretty much what I get into it with certain situations that I've done over and over and over again, like every year, like renewing my lease, inspection of the apartment, doctor's appointments every 6 months, and I get myself all worried about how it's going to turn out, and then it turns out fine, and it's like, what was I so worried about? But it's the anticipation that gets me into a panic. I find that I just have to, until it gets closer to the time that it's going to happen, just don't think about it and just go on with the rest with my life. Just go on with my normal everyday routine, and that's it.
Yeah, this thanks guys. I agree that if I'm angry and then someone tells me I'm angry, that just makes me furious. I'm not angry. And I think basically he's saying there's two selves. There's a witnessing self, and there is what I would call the conventional self, or he calls it the neurotic self. But one of the things that I realize is that sometimes when you're angry or sad, sometimes when someone who has like a negative emotion, angry or sad, it's not always the best thing to do just to drop that emotion, because sometimes that emotion is a message from a part of your inner self that says certain needs are not being met. So if, for example, if my son is angry at me, I could, he's 30 years old now, so I could just tell him not to get angry. Angry is not a good emotion. But I think that's not a resourceful situation. Sometimes I have to say, what do you need? But then in working in business situations, people can manipulate that, as Atul mentioned, that like if you're too kind, and then people say, I'm sad, I'm angry. And if your tendency is just to help right away, that is also not skillful. So sometimes in different situations, there are different boundaries. But if for myself, if I'm angry, I need to go back and say, what needs do I need to meet? And maybe I expect my husband to take care of that need, but that's not his job. That's my job. So I do not think that all the negative emotions are neuro. I do buy into the idea that there's a conventional self and then there's a witnessing self, and that the witnessing self, or sometimes called the observer self, is generally non-judgmental. It feels pretty neutral. The emotions doesn't get triggered the observing self. The conventional self do have emotions. I would say that emotions can be destructive, but sometimes it's a message from the soul that the self is not being taken care of. So that it merits looking, say, not just say, oh, who is that's angry, and then just let it go. But is there a need that anger being that I can take care of by taking care of myself? Because if not, the needs are pretty fundamental. Unless you're like a high level guru or something. The needs stay there. Maybe a high level guru can say, oh, even this need is illusional or delusional. I don't they may say, I don't need a wife, right? Or
Yeah.
I don't need a student, right? Or I don't need food for 30 days, right? But most of us need to eat. So I think that for conventional people, I think we need to look at needs as well as part of that process. And it's a compassionate thing to do. That when other people are angry, also look at or sad,
Mm.
also see, is there a need? And can I, is it within my power to help?
Mm.
But it's always not my responsibility.
Yeah.
Even my wife or my husband, I
Mm.
can't meet all their needs, you know.
Right.
But if I could help them, I would do
Mhm.
that, you know. So that's what I think. So Wendy's approach, like at certain point the panic is just overwhelming. It just
Mm.
let it go for a minute. I think that's very wise. It's just like even when you're angry, you don't need to let that tendency to act out, but you
Mm.
can't ignore it either, So acknowledge it, don't
Mm.
release it. Just because you're angry isn't fault. I try not to do that. Of course, I do that sometimes. you know. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Julie. So we'll
Thank
move
you.
to we'll move to our next session, commitment. Um, for me, yes. Again, we'll be going to I'll be going to cricket shortly after this one. That's that. The gym is still on, so I go for yoga for gym for at least 2 or 3 days. So that's still going on. Lately, I've been focusing on some taking studies for my kid Arhat. So Washington has this Value School District has this exam, the gifted exam. I'm trying to cover up some syllabus for him. So on and off, my wife and I just put some time. I don't know. I mean, we are not like okay, he has to go to gifted, but we are thinking like little effort on our side, and then if he does, that's great. If he can't make it, it's okay. So,
Yeah.
what we want to give, yeah, we just he does well, but I think as usual the numbers and then number puzzles and number series, anything to do with numbers, it's like gets hard to him. The maths.
Mm.
So I'm right now taking the easy one, the analogies, and then uh, reading part, vocabulary. So I'm doing the smaller one. So I thought like probably if I do this, he will get interested in doing something more, and then I can slowly switch to maths. So that's what I am thinking. But let's see. So that, yeah. So mostly I'm spending, even last week also. Uh, I'm spending the time. I'm using Testing Mom. Some prints out from there. So Testing Mom is a website that gives you a lot of information on these testing, some sample papers. So yeah, so that's my plan. So the exam I think is in January. So and maybe I'm going to try out some few things with him and see if how that goes. That's my plan. Do you want to know? You want to go next? Yeah.
I didn't hear. There was a static.
Oh yeah, you want to go next? I'm done. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm done. I'm saying.
Wendy,
Okay,
you go.
Wendy,
all right, all right. For me, it's just keep up with the yoga and the exercise and all my reading and studying. And I think this week we're gonna have coffee hour on Thursday, and we might be doing coloring. And that's it.
Okay. Okay, so this week I am going to work with my friend on the book, work with my friend on the stretch book. I'm going to spend afternoons doing some exercise or going for a walk with my husband, and going to continue to study grammar and continue to do my chanting. I don't know if you're interested, but the Montessori programs, I can Google it for you if you like. They have a lot of learning tools that's very physical. Like, so for example, they have binomial square 2, 2 square times, the area of the square is 1 square. The area of a hypotenuse is the square of one side plus the side. They have it in physical cubes. So it can become like a physical puzzle. And my experience with children is that at a certain age, they actually learn better with physicality. And so if you like, I'll look up and see if they have things like that.
That would be great, actually.
Okay. And that's how my son was very good in math. He actually invented negative numbers. So he said 7 minus 6 is equal to -1. And he was with the Montessori school program. So I'll Google, and if I find something interesting, I'll look for it. I'll email it to you. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'm sure he's very physical based on what I know of him.
Yeah.
And so his intelligence, there's 3 levels of expression intelligence. There's the visual, the audio. Some people process information visually or audio. Yeah. And the last one is kinesthetic. They actually have to feel things to learn it. And they're actually the deepest learners in the sense that when they learn something, they retain it really, really well.
Yeah. He has a good memory. That's why I know he will remember things way off. Like.
Yeah. So but it sounds like, he may be more, he may learn better with actually touching things.
Yeah.
Okay. So like if you take even like sunflower seeds and say 2 plus 5 is 2 plus 3 is equal to 7. You use seeds, and then create other physical exercise like that for him. It will actually help him integrate it more. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what I think.
Thanks.
Okay. That's it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. See you next.
Thank you.
Yep.
See you next week.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.